2005 through 2011 Mercedes ML320 spark plug replacement. I'm Brian Nessel from How To Automotive. I'm going to walk you through the steps for replacing those. The first step is to remove the top engine cover. It's just pressed on, so you'll grab it in the corners and lift straight up and pull off. Now we're going to remove the air cleaner by popping the clip here. There's going to be a clip underneath here that connects to the mass air. Then we're going to follow the perimeter around and pop these clips open here all the way around. Once you get those all popped off, you'll lift it up and pull it off and set it aside for now. So I'm going to work on the passenger side here, and I'm going to remove all 6 of the spark plug wires. And if you look on the coils, there's an A and a B mark. The top port is the A and the bottom port is the B. So some of the wires are longer than the others, and some of them are shorter. So we're going to keep track of that. And also, if you look on the valve cover, you'll see that the cylinder is marked A and B. So the front one is A, the back one is B. So it'll follow all the way back, A, B, all the way back. So I'm going to use a spark plug wire puller tool. I'll link this up in the description of the video. But so you're just going to grab the spark plug like this, give it a twisting motion, a rocking motion, and pull. And you go ahead and remove all 6 of them like that. To get the wires out the coils, I just grab them like this and pull. And maybe give them a little wiggle too, and just pull straight out. And then I set them aside in order, so I'm keep track of which one, if one is longer than the other. So in most cases, the front cylinder and the very back cylinder has got the long ones, and the middle wires will be exactly the same length. So A and B will be the same length on the center coil. So once I get those out, then I just keep working my way back, and I use the tool to work the wire off. So I laid them all out in order. So this is cylinder 1, this is A, and this is B. This is cylinder number 2, and this is A, and this is B. And this is cylinder number 3, A and B. And if you look at the wires, A on cylinder number 1 is longer, and then B on cylinder number 3 is longer. So the cylinder's offset, so that's the reason why they have a couple wires that are longer. So now I'm using a standard 5/8 spark plug socket and a 3-inch extension. So we'll just go ahead and start over here on cylinder number 1 on port A, slide it down in there. And what I do is I use a ratchet, and I'll loosen the spark plug by hand. So I'll go ahead and install my ratchet here and crack the socket free. And then I'll do that for all 6 of the spark plugs. I'll just work my way down, loosening them all up. Then what I do is I switch over to my Milwaukee M12 cordless ratchet here. And this helps speed up jobs like this. You'll be here forever because with all these spark plugs, there's 12 of them in total. So, but doing them by hand is really slow. So I switch over to my my Milwaukee. So after removing all 6 of the spark plugs on the passenger side, I switch over to the driver's side here. Same exact thing. I'll use my plier tools here to pop the spark plug wires off, and A and B, and I'm going to lay these out on the bench also in order. Cylinders 4, 5, 6, and keeping track of A and B. This side has a little heat shield to deal with. It's a little bit tighter, but not too much harder. It's pretty much the same task. So I went ahead and laid these spark plug wires out in order. So cylinders 4, 5, and 6, A and B, just laid them all out the same as we did cylinders 1, 2, and 3. So now I'm going to go ahead and remove the spark plugs from these 3 cylinders. And it's going to be the same setup as the opposite side. So I'm going to crack them free by hand, all 6 of them. Then I'll switch over to my Milwaukee M12 ratchet here, and I just lightly squeeze the trigger and take the spark plugs out slowly. Don't use speed, that can strip the threads out, so take them out, remove them slowly. So now we're ready to install the spark plugs. I'm going to be using these Bosch here. I will link these up in the description of the video. Also the ignition wires here, you can find these all in the description of the video. That way if you need to pick any of these up, you can find them there. These are all high quality parts. So these platinum spark plugs come pre-gapped, and they're not recommended using gapping tools on it. Can damage the tip. So if the spark plug gap looks like it's too narrow or too wide, I recommend that you send these back and not reuse them. So if you look at the spark plugs that came out of this Mercedes, this one is the original spark plug, and it doesn't have anything on the threads. So there's no NICs or anything like that. So I'm going to go ahead and install these new spark plugs back into the vehicle without putting anything on them. So I'm going to start in the back here and install the spark plug, and then I'm going to thread it in by hand, make sure that it starts threading in correctly. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch over to my Milwaukee M12 here, and I'm going to use this variable trigger and lightly pull the trigger and just slowly spin the spark plug in until it bottoms out. I'm not going to use the ratchet to torque or tighten the spark plug at all. Just run it in to speed up, save time. This little ratchet is one of my favorite tools. It helps me save a lot of time, and its compact size allows me to do jobs like this. I highly recommend having a tool like this in your collection. I'll leave a link in the description of the video. That way, if you guys are interested in checking it out, you can find it there. Now I'm going to use a torque wrench and do the final torque on the spark plugs, and I'm going to torque these all down to 20 foot-pounds. So after installing all 12 of the spark plugs and torquing them down, now it's time to install the ignition wires. So 4 of the wires are going to be long, and 8 of the wires are going to be shorter. So going back together, I'm going to start on the driver's side, which is going to be cylinders 4, 5, and 6. So on port A on cylinder 4 is going to be the longer wire. So we're going to start with the longer wire on cylinder 4 on port A. So what we're going to do is just going to feed it down here and install it onto the spark plug, and we're going to push it on to make sure it fully seats. So you're going to a lot of pressure and push on until you make sure it clicks. And then we're going to go onto the port A, which is going to be the top port. And so you just push it on until you hear a little audible click, and you'll kind of feel it in your hand. Now we're going to install the B wire onto the cylinder 4 spark plug and push it on until you hear it click, and then we'll put the B wire onto the bottom portion of the coil, and like I said, push it on until you feel it click. And then the 2 middle ones are exact same length, so you'll just start with A, which will be the top port, and B, you'll push the wire on and you'll plug it into the bottom port. So now we're going to do cylinder number 6, and you're going to need a long wire and a short wire. On this case, the long wire is going to be the rear port, or the B port. So we'll go ahead and install the A port first and get that on. So go ahead and plug that in, and then plug it into the A port, which is the top one. Then we'll go ahead and install the longer wire, which is the B port. So you'll go ahead and put it onto the spark plug, push it onto its seat, and then plug the B port into the coil. So now that we got the driver's side all complete, we're going to move over to the passenger side, which is cylinder number 1. And you're going to install the longer one on port A on cylinder number 1. So you'll locate your longer wire, plug it into the spark plug, make sure it seats, plug it into the top port, port A, push it into it, you hear that click. Then you'll grab the B wire, insert it onto the B port. And like I said, there's markings on the valve cover and on the coil. That way, if you need a reference, it's there. So the middle coil, or cylinder number 2, is going to be 2 short wires. So you'll just plug those into A and B. So you'll go ahead and install the front spark plug, which is A, push that on, and then put it onto the top port on the coil, and then you'll put the next wire on, the B and the B port. Now we're moving on to cylinder number 3, which is going to be the first wire is going to be the A port, is going to be the shorter wire on this particular one. So you'll install the shorter wire onto the top port on the coil, and then the long wire will go on the very last spark plug nearest the firewall, and then that will plug into the B port, the last remaining port on the coil. Now we're ready to install the air cleaner lid. So you'll put it back over the mass airflow sensor first and clip the 2 clips that held it on right here. And once you get those clipped on, then you line up the little tabs on the air cleaner and clip them all in. Now you can line up your top engine cover, and then you'll just gotta push it all back on. Once you get it lined up, it just press fits on. So in the description of this video will be links for all the parts and tools that I use. I'm Brian Eslick from How to Automotive. I'd like to thank you guys for watching my videos, encourage you to subscribe, invite you to head over to the howtoautomotive.com website for more valuable videos like this, and I'd like to thank you again for watching.